Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the July 8th, 2026 meeting of the Fond du Lac City Council. The first item of business is roll call, which is done electronically, and I will declare a quorum present with Mr. Heisler absent. The next item on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance, which is followed by a moment of silent reflection. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And next on our agenda, we have the introduction of our new Senior Center Director. Mr. Moore, was that going to be you, or?
Jules.
You want to come on down, or whatever you're more comfortable with, I'm fine.
I wanted to introduce our new Senior Center Director, who was recently promoted into her role just a few weeks ago, Sarah Doctor. She has been with the city for over a decade at this point, working as our activity and program coordinator, and has been stepping up significantly in the last several months. And with the retirement of Kathy Lumens earlier this week, she has gone through a transitionary period and is well suited to the role and to take on this additional responsibility. So I'll turn it over to Sarah.
Good evening. Like Juliana said, I've been at the center for over 11 years as the program coordinator. I am honored and thrilled to step in to this role. The seniors are the foundation of our community. They have built the neighborhoods we live in. My goal is to build upon the fantastic work that has already been done and to continue to make this a place that is vibrant and active and welcoming. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We're so excited to have you still with us and stepping into this new role. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll let you know, you don't have to stay for the whole meeting if you don't want to. And that goes for anybody who's here for a specific agenda item. All right, we'll see you later. But, I mean, you're here, so. But yeah, so anybody who's here for a specific agenda item, you can stay for the whole meeting or you can leave once we're through with your item. You're not obligated to stay for the entire meeting, but you're welcome to. All right, and with that, we'll move on to our consent agenda. The consent agenda finalizes the proposed actions for the meeting: A, June 24th, 2026 minutes, B, July 1st, 2026 list of claims, and C, denial of claim, claimant Randall C. Como. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion. A motion by Mr. Mullen. I'll second it. Second by Mr. Zimmerman. We don't seem to have the boxes popping up for that in our. I don't know, I'm still not seeing anything. Is anybody seeing the motion boxes? All right. Oh. Okay, let's try that. Sorry, technical difficulties. Okay, so for that motion, we have Mr. Mullen motioned and Mr. Zimmerman seconded, but hopefully now it'll work in the iPads for the following resolutions. So with that, seeing no other discussion, please proceed to vote. There's always something. All right, and that passes unanimously. All right, hopefully it'll work better later on, but now we are going to move on to audience comments, agenda and non-agenda items. The presiding officer will limit speaking time for non-agenda items to 2 minutes and items noticed on the agenda to 5 minutes. Ms. Hefter, do we have anyone wishing to speak? All right, we have Laura DeGallier, who wishes to speak on the non-agenda item, the Parade of Prairies.
Thank you, Vice President Brault. Yes, this weekend, on the 11th of July, we are having the first annual Parade of Prairies. And it starts out with the Gottfried Prairie, and then it goes on to the Congregation of Sisters of St. Agnes, the Prairie House, which is William Nettlehorst's private studio, and then the Loudolph Ledge, and finally we come to the Greenway Arboretum. Greenway Arboretum is the only one of all of these that is native. It's native plants, native, everything that is there is pretty much regenerated from when it was always there. This is a part of the city that was never sold, so it's been a part of the city since anybody thought of Fond du Lac at all. We will be taking our visitors through the prairie, one quarter of it, which unfortunately has been destroyed in the current stabilization project, and leading them on into Wichita Woods, which is Oak Hickory Woods, and was a field and is regenerating, and then on to the wet prairie, part of which we've told has never been plowed, and the homestead, which was once there. So I hope that all of you have a chance to come to ours, if you have not ever been to the Greenway, because I'll be able to tell you a bit more about the history of the Greenway, and if you don't do that, please come to some of the others. We are prairie land here. This is where the prairie started, below the ledge, and then spread west across Wisconsin. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. And with that, we have no other speakers, so that concludes our audience comments. Next, we move on to our action items. Action item A is sell alcohol in park, applicant In Tandem Theater, Inc., events Shakespeare in the Park Festival, location Buttermilk Creek Park, date August 27th, 28th, and 29th, 2026, and our introduction is by our city clerk, Ms. Hefter.
Thank you, President Brault. In Tandem Theater is requesting to sell fermented malt beverages on park property on August 27th through 29th for Shakespeare in the Park Festival at Buttermilk Creek Park. A special event application has been submitted and approved, and city staff recommends approval with the condition that no carry-ins are permitted in the designated area.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Ms. Hefter? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion. We have a motion by Mr. Mullen and a second by Ms. Mayweather. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please proceed to vote. And that passes unanimously. Action item B is a Class B fermented malt license and Class C wine license. Entity is OEOD Mexican Kitchen, Inc., agent name Ragu Bista, doing business as Martina's, business address 1305 South Main Street, Suite B. Alcohol License Committee recommendation is to approve, and our introduction is by our city clerk, Ms. Hefter.
Thank you again. Martinez, located at 1305 South Main Street, is requesting a Class B fermented malt and Class C wine license to serve in the restaurant next to the convenience store. Background checks were done on the officers of the corporation, and city staff and Alcohol License Committee recommend approval.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Ms. Hefter? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion. We have a motion by Ms. Leering and a second by Mr. Zimmerman. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please proceed to vote. And that passes unanimously. All right. Item C is a Class B fermented malt license and Class C wine license. Entity Gao Family LLC, agent name Junwan Gao, doing business as Sushi Tail, business address 525 North Peters Avenue, Suite 100. Alcohol License Committee recommends approval. And again, our introduction is by our city clerk, Ms. Hefter.
Thank you again. Sushi Tail at 525 North Peters Ave, Suite 100, has also requested a Class B fermented malt and Class C wine license to serve in their restaurant. Background checks were also done, and city staff and Alcohol License Committee recommend approval.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Ms. Hefter? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion. We have a motion by Ms. Mayweather and a second by Mr. Biber. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, please proceed to vote. And that passes unanimously. Item D is a Class B fermented malt license. Entity is Vendy Cards LLC. Agent name Logan Rin. Doing business as Vendy Cards. Business address 49 North Main Street. Alcohol License Committee recommendation is to approve. And again, our introduction is by our city clerk, Ms. Hefter.
Thank you. Vendy Cards at 49 North Main Street has applied for a Class B fermented malt license so that participants signing up for special events can have fermented malt. Background checks were also done, and city staff and Alcohol License Committee recommend approval.
Thank you again. Is there any questions for Ms. Hefter? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion. Oh, I think we had a fight over it. We had a motion by Ms. Leering and a second by Mr. Mullen. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, please proceed to vote. And that passes unanimously. Item E is resolution number 9247, a resolution making appointment to the Fond du Lac Public Library Board. Our introduction is by our city manager, Mr. Moore.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to appoint Ms. Rasma Barbie to the library board. This would be a first appointment. She's been a poll worker with the city for quite some time, local teacher, recommend approval.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Moore? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion. All right, we have a motion by Mr. Mullen and a second by Mr. Zimmerman. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, please proceed to vote. And that passes unanimously. Item F is resolution number 9248, a resolution making reappointments to the Board of Plan Commission, Historic Preservation Commission, and Fond du Lac Public Library Board. And again, our introduction is by our city manager, Mr. Moore.
Thanks again. Here are 4 people who've stepped up to re-up. Derek Trabise for Plan Commission, Thomas Herlack for Historic Preservation, and Dusty Krakow and Emily Hayes for the Library Board. I recommend a reappointment and approval.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Moore? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion. Looks like we have a motion from Ms. Leering and a second by Mr. Biber. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, please proceed to vote. And that passes unanimously. Item G is resolution number 9249, a resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of up to $3,265,000 taxable sewerage system revenue bonds, Series 2026A, and providing for other details and covenants with respect thereto, and approval of related financial assistance agreement. Our introduction is by our Director of Administration, Ms. Davey.
Thank you. Now that construction on the biogas project at wastewater is well underway, the DNR is ready to close on the Clean Water Fund loans that we'll be using to fund the majority of the project. So there are 2 resolutions for this loan. The first is for the design, engineering, and inspection costs, and then the second is for the actual construction costs themselves. By adopting these resolutions, council authorizes the DNR to sell the bonds to finance the project, and then authorizes the appropriate city staff to sign all of the necessary paperwork. So happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you so much. Are there any questions for Ms. Davey? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion. We have a motion by Mr. Mullen and a second by Ms. Mayweather. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, please proceed to vote. And that passes unanimously. Item H is resolution number 9250, a resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of up to $12,135,000 taxable sewerage system revenue bonds, Series 2026B, and providing for other details and covenants with respect thereto, and approval of related financial assistance agreement. Our introduction is by our Director of Administration, Ms. Davey, but we know this is related to the first resolution, so I don't think there's anything more to say.
No additional comments, nope.
But does anybody have any questions on this resolution? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion. We have a motion by Ms. Mayweather and a second by Mr. Biber. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, please proceed to vote. And that passes unanimously. All right. Action item I is ordinance number 3827, an ordinance amending Chapter 630 Vehicles and Traffic of the Code of the City of Fond du Lac to add no left turn restrictions on Wetstein Avenue at Stowe Street and at South Brook Street at South Military Road. Advisory Parking and Traffic Board recommendation is to approve, and our introduction is by our city engineer, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you. This first ordinance is to, again, as stated, to add no left turn restrictions at two different locations within the city. The first was initiated by the Fond du Lac School District over at Rosenau Elementary School. They've been having backup problems of people turning from Wetstein onto Stowe Street during school pickup in the afternoon hours. They've requested that we make it a no left turn lane, or no left turn onto Stowe Street between the hours of 3 p.m. and 4 p.m. on school days. And then the second is the location is over at South Brook Street onto South Military. This is initiated by the engineering department. Back in 2022, this Military Road was reconstructed, and this intersection was reconfigured a little. So the design engineer at the time recommended a no left turn from Brook Street onto Military for safety reasons, and this is basically now codifying it into the Code of Ordinances. Engineering and Traffic does support these additions, and so does Advisory Parking and Traffic. So if there's any questions, I'd be glad to answer it.
All right, thank you so much. Are there any questions for Mr. Johnson? Well, if I could just ask one, I think you'd mentioned in the memo, but at Brook and Military, there's, I think, already a no left turn sign, correct?
That's correct, yes. The signs have been up since 2022, basically.
Yep.
So, and that no left turn would be any time. There's not a time restriction on that.
Okay, all right, thank you. Mr. Biber?
Will it have, I guess, maybe a right turn only arrow then put there, so make sure.
The pavement, I believe, is already marked with a
Okay.
right turn, and
I haven't been
sign
that far
basis-
down, I go by at Wester's, I never see that part of it, but it has something there already, you're saying?
I believe there is
On the
a
ground.
pavement marking that shows a right turn lane.
Okay, good.
All right, thank you. Seeing no other questions, I will entertain a motion. We have a motion by Mr. Biber and a second by Ms. Leering. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, please proceed to vote. And that passes unanimously. Action item J is ordinance number 3828, an ordinance amending Chapter 630 Vehicles and Traffic of the Code of the City of Fond du Lac to add limited time parking restrictions on East 13th Street. Advisory Parking and Traffic Board recommends approval. And again, our introduction is by our city engineer, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you. I stated this is a request by the Fond du Lac School District along with City of Fond du Lac Engineering Department to add no parking restrictions, or limited time parking restrictions, I'm sorry, on East 13th Street from Park to Wabash during the hours of, I believe, 7:30 to 4:30 on school days. This particular section of road is a little narrower than most of your city streets, so currently parking is allowed on both sides of the road, and then during school pickup and drop-off, there's two-way traffic that's also trying to traverse down this road, and there's just not enough room. So the request is to, again, make a no parking zone during the hours from 7:30 a.m. till 4:30 p.m. on the north side of East 13th Street during school days. Engineering and Traffic, along with Advisory Parking and Traffic, does recommend the addition of these parking restrictions. If there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer it.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Johnson? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion. We have a motion by Ms. Leering and a second by Ms. Mayweather. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, please proceed to vote. And that passes unanimously. Action item K is ordinance number 3829, an ordinance amending Chapter 630 Vehicles and Traffic of the Code of the City of Fond du Lac to amend bus loading zone restrictions on Walker Street. Advisory Parking and Traffic Board recommendation is to approve. And again, our introductions by our city engineer, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you again. This request was made by the Fond du Lac School District along with the principal of STEM. Currently, there's no bus service here to STEM. It's all passenger pickup and drop-off is done by individuals in cars. The majority of that occurs off of Ann Street and goes through the parking lot of STEM and then exits out onto Military. The school is also requesting that passenger pickup and drop-off be allowed in front of STEM on the west side of Walker Street. There is a current bus loading zone. What this request is to remove the existing no parking restrictions north of that no parking zone and convert it over to a proposed bus loading zone. And the reason for that is the code of ordinances state that you can do a passenger pickup and drop off, and the language is temporary for the purpose of taking in or discharging passengers unless parking is allowed for other official language on the sign. So a bus loading zone, you can also do passenger pickup and drop off, and we would sign it accordingly. With basically no parking passenger loading zones in these particular areas. Engineering and traffic, along with advisory parking and traffic, does make these recommendations. So, any questions?
All right, thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Johnson on this one? I am not seeing any, so I will entertain a motion. We got a motion by Mr. Biber and a second by Mr. Mullen. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, please proceed to vote. And that passes unanimously. All right, last one and you're off the hook. We got action item L, ordinance number 3830, an ordinance amending Chapter 630 Vehicles and Traffic of the Code of the City of Fond du Lac to add bus loading zone restrictions on East 13th Street and Wabash Avenue. Advisory Parking and Traffic Board recommendation is to approve with amendments, and our introduction is by City Engineer Mr. Johnson.
Thank you again. As stated, this is to basically modify the parking restrictions in and around Waters Elementary. This request was made by, again, the Fond du Lac School District along with the principal out at Waters Elementary. This is a multi-part request. They are looking to change the pickup and drop-off locations at Waters. Currently, all pickup and drop-off, whether it's passenger vehicle or bus loading and unloading, is all done in front of Waters Elementary out on Wabash. As you can imagine, that's a lot of traffic. It's a lot of in and out. It's very congested over there. So the recommendation is to change the parking restrictions and split it up into two separate sections, where the passenger pickup and drop-off would continue on Wabash, while the bus loading and unloading zone would be moved over to East 13th Street on the backside of Waters Elementary. So this particular request would impose a bus loading zone on the north side of East 13th Street, adjacent to Waters Elementary, and it also would create, again, a bus loading zone in front of Waters Elementary with the same signage as I had previously indicated at STEM, where we would actually put up signs that say no parking passenger loading zone. The amendment that was alluded to, and I guess I didn't get it up on this map, is to also add a limited time parking restrictions on the south side of East 13th Street. It was brought up at Advisory Parking and Traffic by a resident. He reached out to me before the meeting, but he also came to the meeting to discuss it, that he would recommend, and we all agreed, that to add a limited time no parking restrictions on the south side of East 13th Street during the hours of, I believe, 7:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. And what that would do is allow the road to not get too congested over there with the buses coming in and out, to give additional room while the buses are operating. That being said, Engineering and Traffic, along with Advisory Parking and Traffic, recommends these changes to the parking code. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you. There's a lot there, so does anybody have any questions? We have Mr. Biber.
I don't have a question, but it was a very good, with the resident coming in and very respectfully, and worked with Chris beforehand, also came to the meeting and told about what was going on. And I think it worked out very well with it. And so it's just a great example of us working with the city, working with its residents.
All right, thank you. I am not seeing any other questions or comments, so I will entertain a motion. We have a motion by Ms. Leering and a second by Mr. Mullen. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, please proceed to vote. And that passed. Did someone vote no on that one? Mr. Zimmerman. Sorry, I didn't see who had the no, so thank you. Okay, so that passes with 5 in favor and 1 opposed. All right, and with that, that ends our action items. So we will begin our presentation of input items with a 2027 initial budget forecast presented by City Manager Mr. Moore and Director of Administration Ms. Davy.
Thank you. And each year, at either the end of June or beginning of July, we lay out for you our forecast for the upcoming year and for the following 5 years for the capital improvement plan. And that's what we're going to do tonight to set the conditions for what you're going to hear over the next few weeks from each of the departments. After I'm done tonight, Chief Garrettson's going to lead off the first departmental presentation for fire rescue. There are a few things before we go on I wanted to share with you because, after all, you are the board of directors. I think that as our governing body, you'll take great pride in these 12 points I'm going to make very quickly. Number one, our finance office, Tricia's team, received the Government Finance Officers Association's highest accolade, called its Certificate in Excellence in Financial Reporting. We just a few days ago received exceptional results for our most recent annual external audit with 0 findings, and we will be presenting that to you in a few weeks. Third, all public safety operations are accredited. 4, 2026 is the first year of the wage study. We fully implemented what we told you last year, and it was also the first year in over a decade where every city employee received a step increase. Number 5, all 5 of our collective bargaining agreements are in place for the long term. 6, our reserves, what we refer to as our unassigned fund balance, is better funded than it has been in over 15 years. 2027 will be the 3rd consecutive year our health insurance has performed below forecasted expenditures, and what that has allowed us to do is keep premiums flat. 8, we have used only 42% of our debt capacity. Debt capacity is set by statute. And when you hear that we have used less than half, in this case 42%, that's good news. That means you've got flexibility in upcoming capital improvement plans. Number 9, we will complete the multi-year renovation of the police department next year, and you'll see that investment laid out in the capital improvement plan. 10, with the improvements made to the wastewater plant, and Tricia referred to some of those, when we were talking about borrowing, we will soon begin selling refined natural gas to Alliant Energy. I bring that up because that is somewhat of a standard-setting project. We've had a number of people here visiting to learn about that, and obviously we're really excited about that, and you know Cody is, you've heard that. So that project is exciting and moving along. Number 11, we can and will meet every mission with the levy limit constraint, and I'll talk a little bit about levy limits. And number 12, we can and will meet every mission with the expenditure restraint program restraint. And so I'll also talk about that. What's all that mean? That means that we're in great shape for 2027. We're going to have a good year. The department heads are going to be funded as per their request. You'll see that both in the operating budget and the capital improvement plan. So with that, I'm going to start, and then I'll turn it over to Tricia Davy. Next, please, Maggie. Some of this is review, some of this is new, depending on how long you've been on council. The takeaway here is not necessarily the numbers, it's just the magnitudes. On the right side, what we're indicating there is we put our financial priorities into primarily 4 departments. Our supporting departments on the left side are, if you look at across the state of Wisconsin, what's called general government, in other words, that 3.5 million. We allocate much less in that regard than you would find on average around the state, and the reason why is because we have a priority for public safety, public works, and community development. Then you can see our layout for employees in parentheses. That's what each of those departmental numbers mean, and then you can see the summation in the bottom. I would note that aside from the referendum that added 12 positions for budget year 2022, we have only added 1 position in net since 2019. Next, please. So if you are ever asked what drives the decisions about what we propose in the budget, it's about growth. And why is it about that? Because we need to grow for our labor force, meaning our business success. We need to grow so that the enrollment in our schools doesn't drop. We need to grow so that our tax base can grow. And particularly as the community has gotten a bit older over the years, we need to grow so that there's a workforce here that is supporting the tax base as a number or a higher ratio of the community is older. And so below that, in those 5 points, what I'm laying out here is the priorities in residential development. You've heard a lot about that. We talked about that recently with 2 more neighborhoods being inaugurated. Our efforts with commercial and retail support, that includes on the outlying parts of the city as well as the downtown. Superior recreation assets, how does that manifest itself? It manifests itself in a project like what will be done on Pioneer Road next year between Park and Main. There will be bike trails there. That's because we have this priority of increasing our recreation assets, providing excellence in infrastructure. You will hear from Public Works when they do their presentation about where our investments are next year in various bridges and streets. And then lastly, we aspire to operational excellence for everything we do, and the department heads will talk about that as well. Next, please. There are a few constraints that are really, really important to understand. Not the details, not the formulas or anything like that, just the concepts, because the concepts are the answer often to why can you or why can't you, why is there a limit, why isn't there a limit. So the levy limit, really important concept. The state of Wisconsin says municipalities, counties, you can't spend much more next year than you're spending this year. That's kind of the overall concept. And the way they do that is by tying the increase to the change in net new construction. So I'll just say this, net new construction, imagine it, we're adding up the value of all the newly built buildings in 1 year, and we're subtracting the value of all the buildings that were demolished. That leaves you with a net number of what was constructed. That's then converted into a percentage based on the overall value of real estate in this city. And I'll show you on the next slide what that looks like in just a minute. But I wanted to emphasize that, the last few years we've had notable inflation. And strangely, it's a reminder that net new construction has nothing to do with that. So if inflation's running at 5%, net new construction is at 1%, that's a challenge. And that's something we have to pay attention to when we're putting the operating budget together. Shared revenue, comes from the state of Wisconsin. It's also capped. It's now adjusted based on a new law. The adjustments are in our favor. They have represented a great benefit to the city of Fond du Lac. Next, please. So Tricia and I have forecasted 0.5% in net new construction. We wanted to be extremely cautious based on what we've seen this year in terms of construction and demolition, so that we didn't find ourselves on the wrong side of a forecast when we actually get the numbers. So that 0.5% is very conservative, but it's against what we see as a CPI, meaning inflation roughly, that's going to exceed 2.5%. So, right there is a challenge we have had to figure out, but we figured it out, and we'll be explaining that over the next few weeks. Next. So I'm going to talk about sources and uses. Sources mean, where do our revenues come from? You can see the two big ones. The one in orange, that's shared revenue and a few other things that come from the state, like transportation aids. And in red, the tax levy, property taxpayers. All the others are fairly small, pretty self-explanatory. And in our budget book, they're detailed in quite a bit more detail, so that you will see in those categories all the components thereof. Next, please. I mentioned expenditure restraint. This is an interesting subject because the state of Wisconsin says, cities, if you are willing to constrain your spending, we will reward you with money. And so for the city of Fond du Lac in 2026, we did that. We stayed within the expenditure restraint limit, and the state rewarded us with $1 million. That's part of that wedge I showed you on the sources, meaning state funding. Super important. But the takeaway is also that it creates a cap on spending. Levy limits create a cap on how much money we can raise. Expenditure restraint is how much we can spend, and so the state wants us to be relatively conservative because they've tied that to CPI. So somewhere between net new construction and CPI is where we got to fall. Next, please. So this is money going out the door, investments by virtue of expenditures. I mentioned when I showed you the slide of the leadership group and how we allocated funding by department and where the people were allocated by department. I said that we have prioritized those 4 departments, and you can see it here. This is representative where the investments are, 55% in public safety. Public Works is that 20%, but it's also parks and transit. So that's about 30%. The rest is general government. That's city attorney, HR, director of administration, IT, et cetera. And so that's how we allocate our funds based on our priorities. Next, please. I am by no means going to go through this. I just wanted to hit a couple of highlights because this is a page that you'll find early in the 2027 proposed budget. If you can understand or at least track these numbers along with the ones on the next slide I'm going to show you, it's incredibly useful. You don't really even have to look too much further if these numbers make sense to you. I will say that because of what I've said about the expenditure restraint and the levy limits, what we've spent in 26 will be similar to what we spend in 27. So under the total expenditures column, just so that Ms. Mayweather and Mr. Biber, you have numbers in mind, the general fund this year, we're expending $41.5 million. So that gives you an idea of what it costs to operate our departments. You see some other lines there. It's notable that wastewater and water, they're not supported by tax dollars at all. They're all supported by ratepayers. They've got their own budgets. We track those and manage those just like we do the operating budget. But I point that out because it's a different source of funds. And then down below, what you see is what you will be asked to approve in November is the tax levy. And we asked the city council last November to approve a tax levy of a little over $35 million. You can see that in the bottom right. Then above that, you can see how that 35 million is allocated, where that money goes. And so 19.1 of it goes to the general fund. The rest is fairly self-explanatory. Maggie, let's go to the next. Okay, there you see in the middle right, that 41.5 million. Again, you see the sources above that. You see the line that says general property taxes, 19.1. You saw that number on the previous slide, the allocation from the tax levy. And the great news that you saw in both 2025 and 2026 is this very, very small use of fund balance. That is less than 0.5% of the overall revenue. That's a great place to be. It's very sustainable, not a worry about that at all. And that's what gets us to a balanced budget. Then below is what I've said previously in other slides, the numbers that are associated with each of the activities and where we are expending the funds. Next, please. I'm going to turn it over to Tricia, and she's going to finish up the presentation. And then after that, we'll take questions.
Thank you. So I'll just take the next few slides to talk about the 2027 budget and the capital improvement plan highlights. The budget document that you'll receive in August, along with the subsequent workshop that we'll have in September, will have a lot more detail, so tonight will just kind of be some high points. Our expenditures can be broken into the four main categories seen on the slide. Given that we're in the business of providing services, it's not surprising that wages and benefits will always be our largest driver of our costs. As always, our theme is affordability. While we will be providing a balanced budget to you in August, it does come with some intentional decision-making that affects all the pieces of the pie. So any flexibility that we have regarding those pieces that I've mentioned lies in the decisions that we make. For wage increases or benefit changes, we look at our revenue constraints, and then we determine what would be affordable for wage increases for both the represented and the non-represented employees. And then in 2027, we also made the decision not to add any new positions. For the other sections of the pie, such as contractual services, materials and supplies, and utilities, we directed departments to maintain a 0% year-over-year increase in their annual requests. So they put a lot of thought and effort into coming up with that 0% increase that we've asked for. So by making all of those decisions, we're able to focus on our operational priorities and provide a balanced budget. Next slide. So related to the capital improvement plan, this is just a high-level list of our investment in the capital items needed to continue to provide our high-quality municipal services. Our capital plan allows for long-term planning to fund critical public safety equipment, enhancement of our parks, upgrades to our core infrastructure, and support growth within the community. So each of the departments, as Joe mentioned, will go over their respective areas and more during their presentations and kind of highlight some of the projects that they have in the capital improvement plan. Next slide. So a summary for the 2027 budget. The budget we'll deliver in August reflects careful planning to meet today's needs without compromising future financial stability. It aligns available resources with priorities and long-term goals. It reflects input from departments and focuses on our operational priorities. Residents can continue to expect the same high level of core municipal services, but our revenue and expenditure constraints leave little room to expand services. And we're using our fund balance strategically, not as a long-term solution for ongoing operating costs. Next slide. So a snapshot of our upcoming budget schedule. The green box you'll see of the department presentations coming up through the end of August. And then after that, the schedule encompasses our budget publication all the way through our tax bill mailing in December. And for the folks that are new, I do want to call out in September on the 16th, we will have an out-of-cycle special deliberation workshop. So we will actually be meeting 3 Wednesdays in a row in the month of September to encompass that workshop. And that's it. Next slide. Questions?
All right, thank you so much. We will start with Mr. Zimmerman for questions.
Thank you, Ms. Brault. Ms. Davies, how are you guys forecasting utilities right now? Because diesel prices and gas prices, I mean, that's just a whim right now. I mean, it's like throwing darts at a board.
Right, so we went on the high side of what we anticipate the costs are going to be just to make sure we have some flexibility.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
All right, are there any other questions from council? Mr. Biber?
Yes, thanks for the presentation. Very good job. Appreciate it. I probably have some questions on the side to ask.
Sure.
Ron, so I'm
Sure.
Just trying to get it all in, but I know it's a big chunk, but appreciate the work done on it.
Mr. Biber, Ms. Mayweather, I'd recommend that you read the budget memo of the 2026 budget. You don't need to look at the numbers, just read that memo, and that might spur some questions or make you wonder why there are certain decisions made or allocations made, and then we could go from there. But the memo in 27 will be formatted the same way. That's why I recommend looking at the one from 26.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you. Are there any other questions from council? Otherwise, I guess I'll jump in. So I have one question about the estimated net new construction at 0.5%. I feel like that's the lowest that I've seen since I've been on council. Does that?
Yes,
And
it is.
So is that the lowest that it's been in a long time, or?
It is, and part of that is because there's been so much commercial activity over the past few years. It seems to me it's somewhat of the natural ebb and flow, and that's what I'm hearing from people that are in that world who develop those kinds of projects. And that's why you see reuse also, like over at Home Depot, right? Those 6 stores could have been built years ago in a number of different places in a new building, but developers are looking at more cost-effective ways in addition to trying to, I mean, frankly, the move to online shopping has had a big effect on retail footprints. So those are some of the contributing factors, I think.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate that. And with that, I'm not seeing any other questions, so I will just kind of echo, especially to our new members, but to all of us, that this is just the beginning of the process. If you have any questions that come up, no, I don't think any question is too small or too,
Right.
insignificant, that there's so much to learn. Even 5 years have done this, there's always more to learn. So, and we'll have plenty more meetings on all the different departments. So we will start with our first one. So we'll move on to our our input item B, the 2027 Fire Department Budget Presentation, presented by Fire Chief Garrettson.
Thank you, Vice President Brault. Good evening, City Council members, division heads, and amazing citizens of Fond du Lac. On behalf of the 74 bravest, most dedicated, and hardest-working members of Fond du Lac Fire Rescue, I have the distinct honor and privilege to present our 2027 budget overview. Next slide. As you know, earlier this spring, Fond du Lac Fire Rescue appeared before the Commission of Fire Accreditation International for a decision on whether we would be internationally accredited for our 3rd time. This appearance before the Commission was a culmination of the past 5 years of hard work by the command staff, the accreditation manager, and the agency. Through introspection, our organization went through a grueling process of strategic planning, development of a standards of cover, development of a self-assessment manual, a week-long peer team site visit, and then an appearance before the commission of industry experts. These countless hours of work evaluated every aspect of our operations, not only to verify that we are effective in carrying out the procedures for the industry's best practices, but more importantly, that we are measured against meeting performance standards. Meeting these performance standards makes our certification much more challenging than other professional accreditations. It is with great pride to once again report that Fond du Lac Fire Rescue was unanimously voted on by the Commission for the Center for Public Safety Excellence, also known as CPSE, to be internationally accredited for the next 5 years. So you may be thinking to yourself, how does all this accreditation business tie into the fire rescue budget? Why exactly is the chief going on and on about accreditation when he should be talking about this year's budget? The answer to those questions is this. Because of this process, we not only identify industry's best practices through performance and procedure, but we concentrate on where and how we will spend our budget dollars for years to come. We provide transparency that we are being fiscally responsible and that we are not only being accountable for today's taxpayer dollars, but we are strategically planning future years' budgets as well. So with that stated, tonight I will be showing a few aspects of accreditation model in relation to my budget presentation. to give you a small taste of exactly what this methodology accomplishes for Fond du Lac Fire Rescue and the Fond du Lac community. Next slide. Category 1, governance and administration. SIPSI defines governance as the recognition of authority that allows an agency to legally form and operate, whereas administration is defined as the responsibility that the organization takes to carry out day-to-day operations. Our governance is established through state statutes, city municipal code, and relative ordinances. The administration, on the other hand, are the members that perform the work for fire rescue and make up 88% of our total budget. The next few slides provide the faces of fire rescue organization. Shown here is Fire Rescue's command staff. Assistant Chief Jason Roberts is tasked with all aspects that deal with Fire Operations Division. Jason provides an innovative perspective on all fire operations, training, and education. Assistant Chief Andy Aird holds the responsibility of managing and running our EMS division. Andy brings a plethora of experience to EMS operations and is making our paramedic level service more effective and efficient. Next is our Division Chief of Community Risk Reduction, Keith Wendt. Keith provides numerous years of experience and knowledge, making an impressive impact in the field of community risk reduction. He performs inspections, certifies alarms and suppression systems, as well as implementing critical fire prevention programs. Next is our office manager, Lori Mintner. Lori is an amazing asset with talents that are second to none. She assists our command staff and membership in many ways, keeping us all well organized and on point. Rounding out our staff is Community Risk Reduction Specialist Rachel Vaughn. Rachel continues to advance our programs and processes for risk reduction that directly benefit all the citizens we serve. Compared to other departments, this is an incredibly small command staff, and these members work tirelessly on all organizational practices to ensure that we provide the greatest level of service to the Fond du Lac community. Next slide. Fire Rescue operates on a 3-platoon system protecting the city 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So shown here is Shift A, led by Battalion Chief Jim Wamser. Jim's expertise is not only leading a very productive shift, but he is also our subject matter expert in all things hazardous materials. Next slide. Battalion Chief Ben Stefani leads Shift B and brings 2 decades of knowledge and proficiency to our agency. Through Stefani's leadership and vision, B Shift provides excellence in delivery of service to the Fond du Lac community. Next slide. Lastly is recently promoted Battalion Chief Sean Nealon. Nealon is an expert in technical rescue and brings a vast amount of leadership experience to ensure that C Shift is providing the very highest level of service to the citizens of Fond du Lac. These 3 shifts of our fire rescue family are the bravest and most professional personnel in the nation, and they make up 88% of the department budget. I will tell you this is an extremely talented and passionate group of individuals who are serving the domestic front lines and protecting our Fond du Lac community each and every day. Next slide. Category 2, assessment and planning. Assessment and planning are defined as the processes used to identify the community's emergency service needs, to identify a basic source of data and information to define the organization's mission logically and rationally. The mission and values of the agency serve as the guiding principles that define its purpose and direction. The men and women I've just introduced embody these principles every day as they deliver the highest level of service to our community. Our mission statement, crafted by our members, for our members, is proudly displayed here. While it may be brief, it powerfully encapsulates our core purpose, to respond and to serve. This simple yet meaningful statement reflects the heart of our work and our unwavering commitment to the people we protect. Our core values further define who we are. They express our purpose, shape our beliefs, and represent the culture we uphold. These values affirm that we are a professional, high-performing agency dedicated to excellence in every action we take. Next slide. Category 3, goals and objectives. SIPSI requires agencies to establish general organizational goals designed to implement their assigned mission and short-range plans. Additionally, all goals and objectives should be developed consistently with the elements of capital improvement plans. For 2027, Fire Rescue is planning the following capital improvement projects. To remain aligned with our vehicle replacement schedule, we'll be placing an order for an ambulance. This is funded out of a special revenue account with funds that are set aside for each medical call that we respond to. Next are thermal imaging cameras that allow us to find victims as well as hotspots and structures are due for replacement. Our current equipment is dated and have become a maintenance issue. Newer models offer significant improved safety features and technology. Third, we currently have a set of hydraulic extrication tools. Although effective, hydraulic tools are heavy, cumbersome, and require much time to set up and deploy. Battery-powered extrication tools have greatly evolved over the past 10 years, and it is time that our agency gets up to speed with this technology. These tools are powerful, easy to maneuver, and can be deployed at a moment's notice. The final capital improvement project for 2027 is a request for replacement and upgrades to the station alerting system. The equipment for our current system is at end of life and cannot be repaired, as the vendor has suggested replacement. This is a vital system that quickly gets us dispatched en route to the correct address and incident type. This completes our CIP requests for 2027 that are all directly tied to our current and future goals and objectives for effective and efficient emergency responses. Next slide. Category 4, financial resources. This category evaluates an agency's financial condition to determine its ability to fund operational priorities and its prognosis for long-range quality of service, given that it can be a dynamic and adverse fiscal environment. Fond du Lac Fire Rescue takes responsibility for the budget earnestly, and we are fiscally accountable to the administration, and most importantly, to the citizens. We realize that the taxpayers expect the highest level of service at the lowest possible cost. Each member of our agency is dedicated to the vision and execution of cost-effective principles and practice to ensure that there are no wasteful spending within our agency's budget. Fond du Lac Fire Rescue's adopted budget for 2026 was a little over $11.9 million. Of that, $11.7 million is derived from the general fund, and the remainder comes from special revenue budgets. Within the general fund dollars, there are two main areas of expenditure. The first is workforce expenses, and the second is contracted services, materials, equipment, and supplies. As mentioned earlier, the expenditure for members of the fire rescue accounts for 88% of the general fund, leaving around 12% for all the functions needed to operate the agency. The only change in fire rescue's general fund operating expenditure for 2027 is due to increases in personnel and benefit costs. For all non-personnel expenditures, we once again have prepared a net 0% increased budget. Next slide. Category 5, fire suppression, EMS, technical rescue, and hazmat. This category's description is: the agency operates adequate, effective, efficient, and safe emergency response programs directed towards extinguishing fires, reducing property loss, and protecting people from injury and death. In 2025, our agency responded to a total of 7,929 calls for service within the community. These incidents consisted of 6,646 pre-hospital emergency medical responses, while we responded to an additional 1,283 calls for service, of which 81 of those were incidents directly involving fire. This equates to an average of more than 21 calls for service per day, demonstrating the high operational tempo and commitment of our team in meeting the needs of those we serve. Next slide. Physical resources. Physical resources are defined as fire stations, training facilities, fire apparatus, and other capital expenditures and outlays that make up the property assets of an agency. Special attention is required to obtain and maintain appropriate quality physical resources. Although not directly affected in the 2027 budget, I wanted to highlight the plan for a submission in the 2028 CIP, which is the construction of Fire Station Number 4. Fire Rescue engaged a third-party independent firm in 2025 to conduct a feasibility study evaluating the potential expansion of services through the addition of a fourth fire station. The study, which incorporated detailed GIS analysis and an operational program review, yielded comprehensive findings that highlight service gaps and opportunities for improved response coverage. To briefly review, through GIS analysis, the study identified a significant gap and deficiency, not only in theoretical response coverage, but also in historical incident response performance. This shortfall is measured against NFPA 1710 standards, which call for a 4-minute or less travel time for the arrival of the first responding company to fire and EMS incidents at the 90th percentile. The findings of this report clearly identified a significant gap in emergency response coverage, specifically in the north central area of the city. Based on these results, the study concluded with strong supporting data that the construction of an additional fire station, satellite fire station, is both needed and strategically sound. This recommendation aims to enhance current response capabilities and to ensure sufficient public safety coverage, along with considering future growth and plan development in the city. We are currently working with an architectural firm to take the information learned through the previous programming study and put together affordable plans and architectural drawings for a fire station located on city-owned property at 365 North Main Street. The plan for construction, with administration approval, would be in the year 2028. Next slide. Although we discussed only 6 of the 21 categories in the presentation and gave a brief overview of a handful of the required 250 individual performance indicators that were needed to be met, you get the sense that Fire Rescue's accreditation has a direct correlation to the city budget, as well as our financial planning into the future. Fond du Lac Fire Rescue remains committed to fiscal responsibility, ensuring that all city-provided funds are utilized to their fullest potential. Through ongoing risk analysis and self-assessment, we continually seek improvement and accountability by incorporating community engagement and measurable performance standards. Above all, we are dedicated to delivering the highest level of service to the citizens of Fond du Lac, guided by our core mission and sustained by the resources and the trust the community we serve. In closing, next slide. On behalf of the 74 bravest, hardest working, and most dedicated individuals, I would like to extend our sincere gratitude to City Manager Joe Moore, Finance Director Tricia Davey, all the city staff, the City Council, and the entire city of Fond du Lac for your continued trust and support. Thank you for allowing us the privilege to provide emergency fire rescue services to this amazing community, a community we are truly honored to serve. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. And before we get to questions, I need you to tell us what was happening in that last picture. 'Cause
Oh, that one, yeah, so the little puppy dog got out the window and nobody was home and the dog was running around on the roof. So we had to make a rescue.
not your everyday kind of call, but I appreciate that you're here not just for our human citizens, but for our canine one as well.
Yep.
All right, we will start the questions with Mr. Mullen.
Thank you, Chief, for your presentation. I just like to point out to really the folks at home and perhaps some of our new counselors that, only 1% of your calls actually involve fire. I mean, you really ought to be the rescue fire rather than fire rescue. The other thing I like to point out to people is accreditation is really a big deal. There are very few departments in the country, and our police department is also accredited, and there's even fewer that have both. So in terms of public safety, it really doesn't get much better than what we got here. The other thing I like to point out about accreditation is, once again, we got an ISO 1 rating, and that's the insurance something organization. Anyway, it's used by insurance companies to set your local rates for property insurance. And having that higher rating is good. It reduces your rate. So we all have a stake in that, besides just a pride of place kind of thing. There is a financial incentive to do that, so we appreciate that. The one kind of budgetary question I had was, what is the current lead time now for a fire truck or an ambulance? It's very long, isn't it?
Yeah, a custom fire engine is about 5 years, and an ambulance is about 2 years.
And how exactly do you budget for that? I mean, are you setting aside money every year in a truck fund, or
So, Tricia helps a lot.
how does that work?
So sometimes we'll work with the vendor, and if we can prepay, we will do that to get our spot in line. Otherwise, we kind of plan to, when we think we're going to get the vehicle, we'll maybe borrow the money 6 months in advance to make sure that we have the funds when the vehicle is in. So we just do the best that we can with planning and try to time it out and put it in the capital improvement plan when we're going to need it.
Okay, very good. The last question I had, and this has nothing to do with the budget, but, in previous years, we had a real problem with overdose deaths, especially fentanyl. And has that problem gotten better over the years? I know it's reduced somewhat nationwide. I'm wondering, just locally, what you're seeing, if you've seen a reduction in that.
Actually, it's gone down in our community, and I think a lot has to do with the ability of publicly used Narcan.
Yes.
So I think that helps a lot with our overdose calls. So it has gone down significantly over the last 3 years.
All right. Well, very good. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Viber?
Thank you, Ms. Brault. Thank you, Chief, for a great presentation. I just had a question. I didn't quite catch, you said some systems outdated. What was that for?
That's our station alerting system. So when dispatch sends us, when they take a 911 call, and as they start typing it into their computer, our station alerting system immediately dispatches that call to our fire stations through an automated message. It's even before the dispatcher has time to finish with talking with the person on 911. We get the initial call right away. So our equipment is over 10 years old, so it's
What year did did you guys bring it in?
that was about 10 years ago.
2015, 2016?
Yep.
Better systems are out there now.
Yeah, it's the same basis of system, but the technology is better.
So what's the old system doing wrong or not doing enough of?
So right now, the old system is operational, but we learned 2 years ago when we had a lightning strike at Fire Station 3, and we had to replace that equipment, that they said that the current equipment we have is no longer, there's no parts for it, or they won't
Okay.
service it anymore. So before the rest of everything else starts breaking.
Obsolescence of it, of the system that you need to replace. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I am not seeing any other council members, so I'll jump in with some questions. The biggest question that I've seen from residents is they're concerned about the expenses related to a new fire station. You said construction would be anticipated for 2028, so are there expenses in the 2027 budget, or what does that look like?
No, there are no expenses for the station in 2027. This year, we have the architectural drawings that was in 2026's budget. So in 27, there are no expenditures for that.
Okay. And then the other question I had, just looking at your call numbers, in the 1,200 other calls, you have false alarms. And since Mr. Mullen had mentioned things about the opioid overdoses, another thing we had discussed in previous years is false alarms, and then also falls, when people call for falls, and we talked about kind of an excessive number of those. So I'm just kind of curious, are you still seeing that as an issue?
Yeah, we, false alarms for 2025 were 358 false alarms. 2024, we were at 353. And in 23, we were at 385. So we have gone down since 23, kind of stayed stagnant for this last year. DC went and his division do a very good job of trying to fix those false alarms, trying to get with the businesses and work with them in order to try to reduce that number. We still have a large amount of them, but his department's doing a very good job to make sure that we're doing everything we can to help them to to reduce those calls. And then for falls, that is still our number one call for service on the EMS side. Last year, we responded in 2025 to 1,300 calls for falls. Comparatively, the year before, we were at 1,297. So we're right at that same number. Once again, our community risk reduction specialist, Rachel Vaughn, she tries to work with areas and people to try to reduce the number of falls, but that is still our number one call for service on the EMS side.
Okay. All right, well, I am not seeing anybody else jumping in for questions. So again, I'll put out if you have other questions, please contact Chief Garrettson about his budget, general questions about the budget. There's plenty of opportunities for more questions on that. But thank you, Chief Garrettson, for your presentation. And also congratulations to you on an excellent accreditation process, and congratulations to you and your staff on just an amazing job for our community. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. With that, that ends our input items. So I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Mr. Zimmerman. If you want to hit your button. Or is it not working? Okay, we got a motion by Mr. Zimmerman and a second by Ms. Mayweather. This is not debatable. Please proceed to vote. Oh, apparently I already voted? Okay. All right, that is unanimous. We are adjourned.